There goes the other girl. They're going outside to bark at the world. Alright. I was thinking that I might be able to work fast enough to do the entire top portion of adhesive, but I think I'll just work to the acorn. And then lay in the gold. I mean, I know I'm doing. There's a logical understanding that I'm making progress as I'm putting in the adhesive, but it actually looks like progress when I put the gold in, and I physically see the difference on the page. The satisfaction of the completion of having the gold there. Yeah, this brush is due for cleaning too. Actually, I may only be able to gild another one or two prints with this brush before it's just time to put it in the bin for dry brushing miniatures or some other sort of utility. Actually, I'm not even going to finish that. I've really got to clean up. One of the problems, if there is a problem with the glue, and it's actually not so much a problem with the glue or the adhesive, it's a problem of technique, but it's drying as you're working with it. And if you try to brush and work it too long, it'll dry to the point where you're actually putting brush marks into it, which you can take advantage of that characteristic as a technique if you want a more of a textured surface for the gold to sit on. However, for the acorn, I prefer to have it as smooth, and it's a larger area, so I can kind of puddle fill the area. And it being smooth, it reflects the light a lot more dramatically. Or it's also possible to let it dry, then go back in and add a few other areas and let that dry, and you can actually build up a surface texture and add decorative elements like little dots or whatever, little lines that are raised up, and then gild over that. That's a nice way over much larger surfaces to break up the smoothness of the gold. Let me update the music since I ran out of music. Clean the brush. Do what we can to clean the brush. Using distilled water. I try to work with archival materials from the paper itself to the pigment-based inks that I print with, or even the paper that I draw the originals on and the ink that I draw the originals with. It's all archival material, so it's going to be around for a while. But I even try using filtered distilled water to minimize the amount of impurities that are in the water, because those will get into the brush. From the brush, they'll get into the adhesive, and I just don't think chlorine is terribly good for things that are supposed to last for a long time, so I don't want it getting into the adhesive and under the gold. So this was a shorter passage, but again, I'm going to whip out the tube and blow a hot breath onto the adhesive in the earlier part where it's probably dried a bit too much for the gold to stick to really well. So I'll reactivate the tackiness and the glue by putting a hot breath on it, and then we'll put the gold on it. So the adhesive is pretty forgiving. It'll go on and it'll remain open for easily a good 10 minutes. At 15, you're probably pushing it. Once again, I'll run the gilder's tip over my cheek, and that through either oil or through static, it's argued, that allows me to pick up a gold leaf. Obviously, you want to work where there's no drafts. I'm going to lay it in as flat as possible. It's possible to overdo the brushing on the cheek, and if you do that, you'll end up with the gold sticking to the hairs of the gilder's tip, which is what we call that particular brush. So here, once again, I'm tamping the gold down into the glue. With the flat edge of a flat paintbrush. Now, if you're familiar with brushes, a filbert would probably work well too. So I'll transport right there, probably as successfully as I've ever moved a larger piece of the excess. But move it over to the next area, continue to tap. All right, got pretty good adhesion everywhere. I'm going to take my little scrap jar now and open that up, and we'll pick up the extra leaf. I'm not brushing very vigorously, I'm just very soft on the surface, trying to pick up the extra gold, which will be used later. The gold leaf is very economical in that you can work with it in this way. You've really got to be a penny pincher to end up overworking the gold. But you can get the gold to a point to where it's picked up enough chunk from the paper or enough residue from the adhesive to where it starts forming little pills and it loses its luster. When you get familiar enough with working with it, you'll learn pretty quickly when your gold is overworked and it's just time to get rid of those particular sweepings. But all right, so you can see the gold's in there very rough. And what I'll do now is, continuing with the flat of the brush, just more forcefully push down, just to ensure good adhesion and to take any more of the loose gold and to work it into little pinholes that may still exist. And it's all pretty much in there. You can see now this is really pronounced, this area on the ear where the little booger got into earlier, the bit of adhesive residue. So that's going to take a bit of patching with some ink when I get done here. So anyway, now that we're pushed in, I'm going to work at like a 45-degree angle to the page and work the tips of the brush into the gold. Get it from different angles, back and forth, with the intent of getting the extra gold off. And really, if you've been watching this for a little while, you see it's all just a giant repetitive loop of make sure your surface is clean. Put the adhesive in. I'm going to sweep this off now with the mop back into the bin. But apply the adhesive onto your prepared surface. When you put in enough of the adhesive, you lay the gold in, tamp the gold down, and then get rid of the excess gold. And then finally sweep off all the extra with a big soft brush. And that's it. So again, if you've been watching this, it's probably just in some ways like watching a loop, although we're covering different parts of the drawing itself. So this is the final product right there, and with what we've done this morning plus what was done yesterday, this is half of it done now, and we're going to continue on. This is more than I normally do gilding on this particular print because it is so time consuming. Normally it's just the acorn and the little key symbol down at the bottom. Those always get gilded on this print, but this is a gift for a friend. Or rather, he bought it, but as a gift I'm adding the extra gilding. He just bought a house. So this will help to decorate it, and that's kind of cool. Sip of coffee and we'll get started again. Alright. I think I'm going to try a different brush. I really think that this little guy, you can't really see that so well, but the very tip of it, there's like a little cowlick on there, and it's been driving me crazy, and it's getting progressively worse. So I think I'm going to try a different brush. Those are natural sable bristles, though, and they tend to hold natural materials better than synthetic, but I think I'm going to switch over to this 00 Grumbacher Golden Edge, and it's got a pretty good tip. We'll see if that makes things any easier. But, this little guy I picked up on special for just a couple of bucks, and again, I go through enough of these brushes to where it's okay to get shoddy little brushes that'll only last a few times, because even a good brush is going to end up getting destroyed through the adhesive that I use. Sorry guys, getting the dashboard set up again. And, okay, we'll get started again. Happy to entertain any questions that you might have. This was just something, I'm not doing so much for the entertainment value, but I figure, you know, some of you guys are going to be able to learn something from it, and that's cool. And to some degree, there probably is some entertainment. But this is something I had to do anyway, so I figure why not? Let's just go ahead and put it on camera and see what happens. So, yeah, that last pass turned out really good. Pretty happy with the amount of coverage that I got, despite that little booger showing up in his ear. But again, that's easily enough fixed. And so much of what's done as an artist, I think, is just learning, or even as a craftsman, it's just learning what to do when mistakes are made, because mistakes are invariably made. So it's not too often that I'll actually freak out because of a mistake anymore. I'll just cover it the best I can, and there you go. Yeah, so this brush being a synthetic instead of a natural sable, like the previous one. The other one might have been a crappy sable, but I think I still prefer it better than this really good synthetic brush. This thing was good to a fault. It's actually got too fine of a point at the very end, and it's not letting me get a good enough bead with the adhesive to fill it in one stroke. These little things are skinny enough that having to do multiple strokes inside that space